When Elvis Presley returned to Sun Studio in Memphis, where his legendary career began, he expected to find memories of his first recording session. What he didn't expect was to find Mr. Thompson, the same janitor who had believed in him 20 years ago, still mopping floors at 75 years old. The discovery stunned the king of rock and roll. While most people in Elvis's position would have offered a handshake, maybe an autograph, and continued with their day, Elvis's response to seeing his elderly mentor still working would set in motion a chain of events that no one could have anticipated. What began as a simple studio visit would transform not just the lives of Mr. Thompson and his wife Betty, but Elvis himself and ultimately an entire community. The question wasn't whether Elvis would help his former mentor, it was how far he would go to repay a debt of gratitude 2 decades in the making. No one, not even Mr. Thompson himself, could have predicted what Elvis Presley would do next. Elvis's black Cadillac pulled up to 706 Union Avenue in Memphis on a warm afternoon in 1973. The small storefront with the words Sun Studio painted on the window looked exactly as he remembered it from 1953. He sat in the driver's seat for a moment, his gold-framed sunglasses reflecting the building where it all began. At 38 years old, Elvis had conquered the world, sold millions of records, starred in dozens of films, performed for satellite audiences of over 1 billion people just months ago with his Aloha from Hawaii concert. But right now, he just wanted to remember what it felt like to be that nervous 18-year-old kid who had walked through those doors with $4 in his pocket, hoping to record a song for his mama. "You sure you want to go in alone, boss?" asked Jerry, his friend and bodyguard, from the passenger seat. Elvis nodded slowly. "Some memories you gotta face by yourself, Jerry." He stepped out of the Cadillac, adjusting his blue silk shirt and running a hand through his famous black hair. Even in casual clothes, Elvis Presley was unmistakable. The small lobby hadn't changed much. Same linoleum floors, same worn furniture. A young receptionist looked up from her magazine and nearly dropped it when she recognized him. "Mr. Presley, oh my lord, we weren't expecting you today." "Just visiting, darling," Elvis said with that familiar smile. "This place means a lot to me. Mind if I look around?" "Of course. Studio A is empty right now. That's where you recorded, right?" "Yes, ma'am. That's exactly where I need to be." He walked down the narrow hallway, past photographs of himself and other Sun Records artists. Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins. The walls held the history of rock and roll's birth. When he pushed open the studio door, the smell hit him immediately. That mix of old acoustic tile equipment and floor wax. His heart tightened with emotion. The studio was tiny, just as he remembered. There was the corner where he had stood, shaking with nerves, singing My Happiness into a microphone for the first time. There was the spot where Sam Phillips, the producer who discovered him, had told him he had something special. Elvis was so lost in memory that he almost didn't notice the elderly man slowly mopping the floor near the back wall. Something about the deliberate way he worked, the care he took with each stroke, seemed familiar. The old man wore navy work pants and a grey shirt. His hair was completely white now, his back slightly bent, but he moved with quiet dignity. "Excuse me, sir," Elvis said softly. The old man looked up, squinting. "Studio's not booked right now, son. You here for a session?" "No, sir. Just visiting. I recorded here a long time ago." The janitor leaned his mop against the wall. "Lots of folks recorded here. This little room changed music history." He stepped closer, studying Elvis's face. "What year did you work here?" 1953 and 54 mostly." The old man's eyes widened behind his glasses. 1953. Well, I started here in 52. He tilted his head, looking at Elvis more carefully. Wait a minute. Do I know you? Elvis removed his sunglasses slowly. It's Elvis, Mr. Thompson. Elvis Presley. The old man's hand flew to his chest. He grabbed the doorframe for support. Little Elvis, that shy boy who could barely look me in the eye. Not so shy anymore, Elvis said with a gentle laugh. Lord have mercy. Mr. Thompson shook his head in wonder. Elvis Presley, standing right here in front of me. He held out a weathered hand. I apologize for not recognizing you right away. These old eyes ain't what they used to be. Instead of shaking his hand, Elvis stepped forward and embraced him carefully. The old man felt fragile, like he might break. When they separated, tears were streaming down Mr. Thompson's face. I can't believe you're still working here, Elvis said. It's been 20 years. 21 years next month, Mr. Thompson said proudly. Started when this place first opened. How old are you now, if you don't mind my asking? Turned 75 last spring. Elvis couldn't hide his shock. 75 years old and you're still mopping floors. Somebody's got to keep this place clean, Mr. Thompson said with a small shrug. These floors have seen a lot of history. I take pride in maintaining them. Memories flooded back. How Mr. Thompson used to unlock the studio early so young Elvis could practice before his sessions. How he'd bring him sweet tea when his throat got tired. How he'd told him after that very first recording, "Son, you got something special. Don't let nobody tell you different." You remember how you used to let me in early to practice? Elvis asked. Mr. Thompson's face lit up. Sure do. You'd be here at dawn sometimes, singing gospel songs to warm up your voice. I'd sit in the corner and listen. Knew you were going places. You were the first person who really believed in me, Elvis said quietly. Before Sam Phillips, before anybody. You told me I had talent. Didn't take much to see it. Could hear it in your voice, feel it in how dedicated you were. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Two men separated by fame and fortune, but connected by shared history. Mr. Thompson, Elvis said carefully, why are you still working at 75? Don't you want to retire? Spend time with family? The light in the old man's eyes dimmed. Well, retirement's for folks who can afford it. My Betty, we've been married 52 years come October. She had a bad fall 2 years back. Hurt her hip real bad. Can't walk without a walker now. Medical bills add up. And my pension. He shook his head. It don't stretch far enough. Elvis felt his chest tighten. I'm real sorry to hear about Miss Betty. I remember her bringing you lunch in those brown paper bags. She still does that, Mr. Thompson smiled sadly. Every Tuesday. Makes me ham sandwiches, cuts off the crust just how I like them. Woman's got a heart of gold, even if her body's giving out. Where do you live now? Same little house we bought in 1955, over in South Memphis. Needs some fixing we can't afford. But it's home. Elvis made a mental note of every word. South Memphis, medical bills, house repairs, a 75-year-old man still mopping floors because he had no choice. What time do you finish today? Elvis asked. Around 5 usually. Got to clean the other studio and the lobby. Mr. Thompson, would you let me take you and Miss Betty to dinner tonight? I'd sure love to see her again. Catch up proper. The old man looked surprised. You want to have dinner with us? Elvis Presley wants to have dinner with an old janitor. Elvis put his hand on the old man's shoulder. Mr. Thompson, right now there's nothing I'd rather do. You were important to me when I was finding my way. Least I can do is share a meal." Mr. Thompson's eyes grew misty. "Well, Betty would be thrilled, but nothing too fancy. She can't manage stairs well with that walker." "I know just the place," Elvis assured him. "I'll pick you both up at 6. Just write down your address for me." Thompson wrote on a scrap of paper. Elvis's mind was already racing. He had come here looking for memories. Instead, he had found something far more important. A chance to give back to someone who had given him so much when he needed it most. By the time Elvis left the studio and returned to his Cadillac, he had made a decision. That evening, Elvis pulled up to a small house in South Memphis. The neighborhood had seen better days. The house had peeling paint, a sagging porch, and a front yard that needed attention. A makeshift ramp of plywood had been built over the front steps. Jerry started to get out, but Elvis stopped him. "Wait here. This is personal." He walked up the cracked pathway and knocked. Mr. Thompson opened the door wearing his Sunday best, a pressed shirt and tie. "Elvis, right on time. Come on in. Betty's just finishing getting ready." Inside, the house was spotlessly clean despite being small and worn. Family photos covered every surface. Children, grandchildren, weddings, graduations. "Tommy," a woman's voice called from down the hall. "You didn't tell me it was Elvis Presley." Betty Thompson appeared, moving slowly with a walker. She was a small woman with silver hair and bright eyes that sparkled with recognition. "Miss Betty," Elvis said, taking her hand gently. "You look beautiful as ever." "Oh, stop that now," she laughed. "I'm just an old woman with a bum hip. But you, my stars, you're even more handsome than on the TV." As they prepared to leave, Elvis noticed everything. The narrow doorways that made Betty's walker barely fit. The bathroom door that was completely inaccessible. Medical equipment stacked in corners. Worn furniture that had seen decades of use. He saw it all, and he remembered it all. At Marlowe's, a quiet restaurant Elvis knew would accommodate them. He had arranged a private corner booth. Over dinner, Southern comfort food. Nothing fancy. Elvis asked questions and listened carefully. He learned their son lived in Chicago, their daughter in Atlanta. Both had families and struggled with the cost of visiting. The grandchildren they adored were growing up hundreds of miles away. He learned Betty had been a schoolteacher for 30 years before her fall, that she missed her students terribly, that she spent her days reading and watching game shows because she couldn't navigate most of their house. He learned Mr. Thompson had worked at Sun Studio for 21 years without complaint, turning down higher-paying jobs because he loved being around music, that he had believed in countless young musicians over the decades. "You know what Betty told me tonight?" Mr. Thompson said, his eyes twinkling. She said, "Tommy, you spent your whole life helping others. Maybe it's time someone helped you." Elvis felt something shift inside him. That was exactly right. After dinner, as Elvis drove the Thompsons home, he made calls from his car phone to his business manager in Nashville, to a contractor he trusted in Memphis, to a medical equipment supplier, to his lawyer. By the time he reached Graceland that night, the plan was forming. Thompson had once believed in a young boy's dream when others had doubts. He had opened doors that changed the course of Elvis Presley's life. Now it was Elvis's turn to open some doors. The next morning, Elvis called the studio. "Mr. Thompson, I'm working on a documentary about the people who built rock and roll from behind the scenes. I'd like to interview you and Miss Betty, get some footage of your life. You interested? A documentary about folks like me. Your story matters, sir." "I was thinking, how about you and Miss Betty Stay at a nice hotel this weekend while my film crew sets up cameras at your house. All expenses paid. Consider it a little vacation." After some convincing, Mr. Thompson agreed. They would check in Friday evening. What he didn't know was there was no documentary. What he didn't know was that an army of contractors and specialists would descend on his house. What he didn't know was that Elvis Presley was about to change his life forever. Friday evening, the moment the Thompsons checked into the Peabody Hotel, the transformation began. Elvis arrived at their house Saturday morning. Trucks lined the street. Contractors, carpenters, medical equipment specialists, over 35 people ready to work. "We got 1 week," Elvis told them. 7 days to make this house perfect for them. Money ain't an issue. Excellence is the only standard. Work began immediately. The old roof came off. Walls were removed to widen doorways for Betty's walker. The narrow bathroom was gutted and rebuilt with safety bars, a walk-in shower, and accessible fixtures. By Sunday, neighbors gathered. Curious, when they learned what was happening, many offered to help. "Mr. Thompson helped us when our house caught fire," one neighbor said. "Let me contribute." A local lumber company donated materials. A furniture store offered replacements. High school students volunteered to paint. What started as Elvis's private project became a community celebration. Elvis worked alongside everyone. He painted walls, carried supplies, listened to stories about Mr. Thompson. How he'd helped a struggling widow, paid for a kid's guitar lessons, mentored troubled teenagers. Each story strengthened Elvis's resolve. Inside, the transformation was remarkable. Smooth floors perfect for Betty's walker. A kitchen with lowered counters she could reach. A bedroom with a special adjustable bed. A bathroom designed for independence. A spare room became a therapy space with equipment insurance never covered. Outside, the cracked walkway was replaced. A proper ramp was built. The yard was landscaped with a small garden. Betty could tend, but Elvis wasn't finished. He established a trust fund to pay off their mortgage, cover all medical expenses, and provide monthly income. Mr. Thompson would never have to work again. He arranged for their children and grandchildren to fly in for a surprise reunion. And he did one more thing. Thursday evening, Elvis met with his lawyer at Graceland. "I want to establish something," he said. "The Thompson Foundation. Its mission is to support people who work behind the scenes in music, janitors, sound technicians, studio staff. People who change lives without recognition." "That's beautiful, Elvis. Mr. Thompson will run it, if he accepts. We'll start with $2 million, and I want a room in his house set up as an office." By Friday morning, everything was ready. At noon, Elvis picked up the Thompsons from the Peabody in his Cadillac. "How was your stay?" he asked. "Wonderful," Betty said, "but we're ready to go home." As they turned onto their street, Betty gasped. "Tommy, look at all these people." The entire neighborhood had gathered. Studio musicians, people the Thompsons had helped, local reporters, all waiting behind caution tape. The car stopped. Their house looked completely different. Fresh paint gleamed. A beautiful ramp led to the door. Flowers bloomed everywhere. "What's going on?" Mr. Thompson whispered. Elvis stepped out and opened their door. "Welcome home, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson." "Elvis, what did you do?" "Made a few improvements while you were away." He gestured toward the house. "Want to see inside?" With trembling hands, Mr. Thompson helped Betty with her walker up the new ramp, smooth, perfectly graded, with sturdy handrails. Elvis opened the door. They gasped in unison. Where narrow doorways had been, there was now open space, Natural light flooded through new windows. Gleaming floors offered smooth passage. "Oh my Lord," Betty whispered, tears flowing. Elvis guided them through. The accessible kitchen, the safe, bathroom, the bedroom with a bed they could both use comfortably. Betty moved through the rooms, discovering she could navigate independently. "I can reach everything. I can move freely. I can live again." In the living room, a display case held Mr. Thompson's collection of Sun Studio memorabilia, ticket stubs, photographs, memories from 21 years. "Your story deserved a proper home," Elvis explained. But there was more. Elvis led them to the back room, now a beautiful office. "What is this?" Mr. Thompson asked. Elvis pointed to a framed document. "That's the incorporation papers for the Thompson Foundation." Mr. Thompson stepped closer, reading. His eyes widened. "Named after me. You're the inspiration. The foundation will help people like you, folks who work behind the scenes in music, who change lives without seeking credit. We started it with $2 million. There's a position for you as director, if you want it. But I'm just a janitor." "You're not just anything," Elvis said firmly. "You're the man who believed in me before anybody else did. You're the man who helped countless others. You taught me that success means nothing if you forget where you came from." Betty took her husband's hand. "Say yes, Tommy." Tears streaming, Mr. Thompson nodded. "Yes, I accept." The crowd outside erupted. Elvis had one final surprise. He handed them a folder. "Your mortgage is paid. This house is yours, free and clear, and there's a trust fund providing monthly income for life. Medical expenses covered. Mr. Thompson, you can retire today." Mr. Thompson sank into a new recliner. "This is too much." "Why?" Elvis knelt beside him. "That day I recorded my first song. I was terrified. But you told me something I never forgot. You said, 'Elvis, you got something special. Don't hide it. The world needs to hear it.' I said that. You did. And I built my whole career on that belief. You gave a scared kid confidence when he needed it most." The door opened. People entered, one by one, each sharing stories of how Mr. Thompson had touched their lives. Small kindness that had made enormous differences. As evening approached, Elvis pulled Mr. Thompson aside. "You once told me everyone needs someone who believes in them," Elvis said quietly. "You were that someone for me. Now I'm that someone for you. And through the foundation we'll be that someone for thousands more." Mr. Thompson looked around, at his transformed house, at Betty moving freely, at the community celebrating him, at the future opening before him. "I don't know what to say. You already said everything 20 years ago when you told a nervous kid he had talent. This is just me saying thank you." 6 months later, the Thompson Foundation had helped 89 music industry workers across the South with financial assistance, medical support, and recognition. Mr. Thompson worked from his home office, reviewing applications and sharing wisdom. Betty had regained significant mobility through therapy in her home therapy room. She walked with a cane now, and doctors were optimistic. Their children visited monthly, staying in the renovated guest room, and every Tuesday, Betty still made Tommy sandwiches with the crusts cut off. But instead of bringing them to Sun Studio, she brought them to his home office where he was changing lives on a larger scale. One evening, on their back porch, Betty turned to her husband. "Did you ever imagine this?" Mr. Thompson thought for a moment. "I just tried to be kind. Treat folks right. Never expected anything back. That's why it came back to you," Betty said, squeezing his hand. His phone rang. Elvis, calling like he did every week. "How you doing, sir?" Elvis asked. "Blessed, Mr. Thompson replied, looking at his wife, his home, the second chapter opening before him. More blessed than I imagined possible. Good, you deserve every bit. After hanging up, Mr. Thompson reflected on the journey, from a scared young boy in a tiny studio to the king of rock and roll, from unlocking a door to opening doors for thousands. It started with one simple act of belief, and it came full circle beautifully. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest ripples, and sometimes, if you're lucky, those ripples come back when you need them most. Thompson smiled, Betty beside him, watching the Memphis sunset on the most extraordinary chapter of their lives. All because one person never forgot. All because kindness always comes home.